This is Radar Farther Table. I'm coming at you with another edition of MLB Observation of the 2025 season. This is the second half. I did one for the first half. So I'll start here with how the divisions started. I'm surprised Blue Jays won, and I'm surprised that they held on. Because everyone going to the season was always going to be Yankees, it's going to be Rays, it's going to be Orioles. The Red Sox will be a surprise team. The Blue Jays were terrible last year. So, surprised that the Blue Jays actually won. That's the surprising thing. But the fact that both the Red Sox and the Yankees made the playoffs, I think I want to toot my own horn saying that I thought the Red Sox had a very good chance with their pitching staff. But who knew that the pitching staff would suffer so many season-ending injuries to their starters and their reliever, and that Walker Buehler wouldn't work out for them, and Dustin May, who they got at the deadline, also got hurt, etc., and they still made the playoffs. The Rays didn't make the playoffs, and they always are close. And then the Orioles were so bad because the biggest mistake was thinking Corbin Burns, Kyle Gibson, when Corbin Burns left, that getting Charlie Morton, and Kyle Gibson was going to be a good idea. Yes, they were missing a lot of starting pitchers, but yeah, they did a fire sale for the most part. They traded away most of their veterans, and they were so bad, but we already knew that. The Tigers blew such a huge division lead. They were up by so many. They were one of the first teams to clinch things, and you're looking at yourself like, okay, cool. They somehow make the playoffs. Division goes to Cleveland, and they still beat him in the wild card round, and they're in the second round now. The Royals didn't make it. I thought they had a good chance of making it based on the rotation this year, but they had injuries to the rotation, and their outfield was kind of a mess till they traded for it at the deadline. So I'm surprised they weren't a playoff team. The Twins and White Sox were bad at the first half of the season. The White Sox played a lot better in the second half. But the Twins, the huge fire sale, and the White Sox lost 102. They probably would have lost 100 because they blew so many games with their bullpen, but they improved by a good amount last year. The Twins did a huge fire sale, just leaving Byron Buxton and Royce Lewis. For the most part, everything else was traded, and that's what you're supposed to do when you stink. And then they fired Rocco Baldelli, so Rocco Baldelli's been fired. The West. The Astros had a huge lead. The Mariners just kept chugging along, unlike the last time where they had the lead and blew it, and they fired their manager. The Mariners made the playoffs, and guess what? The Astros didn't make it. The wild card spots went to the the Red Sox and the Yankees. Texas just missed it, and they were pretty close. But again, a lot of injuries to the rotation. A lot of guys had bad years. And Bruce Bochy said, sayonara. Angels were actually ahead of the A's in the first half, but they dropped past the A's, and the A's were pretty decent compared to the Angels. I already knew the Angels were bad. I just, people were like, no, they're going to be better. No. And the Angels said goodbye to Ron Washington and Ray Montgomery. So there's that. East, the Mets collapsed and the Phillies clinched it by so much. I thought it would be a lot closer. And the Mets missed the playoffs completely because they lost a bunch of games to the Reds. The Marlins were better than most people thought. They were the third best team in the division. Atlanta really dropped some games because they've had all these injuries and they just kept picking up bodies on and off the waiver wire, trading for them. And the Nationals were really bad. There was one part where the Nationals were slightly better than the Braves and the Marlins, but they just completely went sour. And we already knew they fired David Martinez, and they just stayed bad. Brewers clinched the division by a good amount of games. I thought it'd be a lot closer. But the Cubs and the Reds will make the playoffs, but the Reds were probably the worst team in the playoffs. That's why they lost. Cardinals were really bad. They're almost as bad as the Pirates, which is not a good thing because the Pirates stink. West, Dodgers win, but San Diego was 3 games out of the playoffs in terms of winning division. They won the wild card, which they lost, but still, everyone thinks the Dodgers are going to have a huge lead on division, and they did not. San Francisco finished around 500, which is a surprise, but I always thought the last couple of years that they're not good enough to be the Dodgers or Padres. They're not bad enough to be the Rockies and the D-backs. But the Arizona, they almost made the wild card game with their record because even though they had a fire sale, oh my God, with their fire sale, they gave up Naylor, they gave up Suarez, they gave up pitchers like Merrill Kelly, and you're looking at yourself like, really? They finished just slightly under 500, and they were technically in the playoff race for the last month of the season, and you're just like, how is that even possible that that's the case? That's a testament to Torey Lovullo being a good manager. Despite having trades and injuries, he still did pretty well. And the Rockies just won enough to not lose 120 games and to not lose and have the worst record of all time, which they were on pace to do. So give credit to their interim manager that they just were good enough. Now then, some statistical things that I was surprised about. So let's talk about the stats. Cal Raleigh finished with 60 homers and 125 RBIs, breaking the Mariners record, the catching record, and the switch hitting record. Aaron Judge finished with 53 and 114, so second place for everything. Junior Caminero had 45 and 110, which is an impressive season for him. And Joe Adell, I'm going to talk about this, 37 and 98, really impressive for home runs. The Joe Adell was top 5 in the American League. While Vinny Pasquantino had 113 RBIs, so just under Aaron Judge, but he had 32 also. Riley Green, I'm so surprised he had 36 and 111. So, that's pretty impressive that Riley Green had 30-plus homers and 100 RBIs. Taylor Ward got 100 RBIs because he was actually healthy, and I already knew he was a good offensive player. 36 is pretty good. Salvador Perez, 30 homers and 100 RBIs. Solid season for him. Bobby Witt led the league with 184 hits. Bo Bichette was right behind him with 181, and I bet you if Bo Bichette didn't miss a huge chunk at the end of the season, he probably could have had more. Witt also had 47 doubles. Bo Bichette was right after him with 44. Jalen Duran had the most triples, 13, but utility man Zach McKinstry, because the Tigers played him a lot, guess what happened? He got 11. Aaron Judge won the batting title, which is very surprising. Next were Bo Bichette and Jacob Wilson, George Springer, and Jeremy Pena, who missed a lot of time due to injury, and Yandy Diaz, who won the batting title before, were the only other hitters that hit 300 in the American League. It's impressive. There was that many guys because not many people do. Then we go to the National League, where Kyle Schwarber finished with 56, just one more home run than Shohei Ohtani, and he actually had more RBIs at 132, which is surprising because he had a lot of times in the first and the 2 spot when he should have been in the cleanup spot. Shohei Ohtani, 55 and 102 was not bad. That's a career high for him. Still awesome season. Despite missing the playoffs, Juan Soto had 43 homers and 105 RBI. 30-30 season also. That's really good. Pete Alonso had 38 and 126. He didn't get to 40, but it's still a really good season. He had 126 RBI. Michael Busch of the Cubs, 34 homers and 90 RBI. That's a really good season. He's had 2 good seasons with the Cubs. Seiya Suzuki, speaking of the Cubs, had 32 homers and 103 RBI. He should have been an all-star this year. That's a really good season. And Yelich had 103 RBIs and 29 homers. And surprising is Geraldo Perdomo with the D-backs, despite all the injuries and trade, this dude got a 20-homer season, 100 RBI for a dude batting at the top of the lineup. That's pretty impressive. Luis Ariz had the most hits, 181, which is not surprising. But Trey Turner, if he missed all that time, he would have finished second. He had 179. Nico Horner of the Cubs, 178. Perdomo had 173 hits. Pretty impressive. Lindor and Shohei had 172. Pete Alonso and Olsen 170. So not bad. A lot of these guys had good hits. Pete Alonso, with that 170 hit season and 126 RBI season, he had 41 doubles. That's how impressed he led the league in doubles. Olsen and Freddie Freeman had 39. Reynolds and James Wood had 38. Not surprised about Reynolds and Wood, but it's impressive that Olsen and Freeman were in top 5. Corbin Carroll led the whole entire baseball with 17 triples. Jung-Hoo Lee had 12 and Dalen Lyle had 11, so more in the National League. Trey Turner did win the batting title, so if he didn't win the hits per 8, he won the batting title over Nico Horner, who had a 297 average. Freddie Freeman, Ariz on the 295 and 292 era, and Trey won with 304. So Luis Ariz didn't win the batting title, which is a surprise. Gino Suarez, I want to talk about his season because hitting 49 homers, 118 RBIs, and 28 doubles is not bad. And he played in both leagues, so he's not going to be a league leader on both those sides because he put up half and half. Stolen base-wise, Caballero led the league in stolen bases again, 49. Jose Ramirez had 30 stolen bases this season. 44 stolen bases, a 30-homer, 85 RBI season. 44. So he didn't have a 100 RBI season, but he had 30 homers and 44 stolen bases, which is pretty impressive. Witt had 38 and 33 for Luis Robert because he was leading at one point. And then I don't know what I wrote here, but I have Cruz Soto at 38, De La Cruz with 37 stolen bases in the National League. So yeah, O'Neal Cruz led the National League, tied with Juan Soto somehow. De La Cruz, Trey Turner right behind him, PCA at 35, and Scott had 34, Michael Scott. That's surprising that O'Neal Cruz was tied with Juan Soto. That's interesting. Wins, Max Fried at 19, but Crochet and Rodon at 18, so it's a really good race there. Saves, Estevez 42. Munoz was close with 38, Hoffman 32, and Aroldis Chapman 32. Hoffman was 33, excuse me. Innings pitched, Crochet at 205. Fried, Rodon, and Skubal tied at 195. ERA, Skubal had the better 221. Crochet was a 259, but in the middle was Hunter Brown, and Max Fried was 286. Strikeouts, Crochet had way more, 255 over 241, but Brown had 206 and Rodon had 203. Wins. The National League, Freddie Peralta had 17. Luzardo had 15. Webb had tied for a second, and then Boyd, Gray, and Singer all had 14. So I don't think you're going to give the Cy Young to Peralta because he had 17 wins, but it's still a good season. Saves, Robert Suarez had 40. Emilio Pagan had 32. McGill had 30. Iglesias had 29. And Yandy Diaz, not Yandy Diaz. The Mets Diaz, Edwin Diaz had 28. So not as many saves, but 40 for the American League is better than the, 42 is pretty good, but the next one was 38, and this one was 32, but, innings pitched, Logan Webb, followed by Christopher Sanchez, so they're in the 200s. Gallen was just under 200 is Paul Skeen. Under 200 innings. So that's why I don't think he's got to be the Cy Young winner, because he's under in the innings. He's not in the top 5 for wins. He is number 1 for ERA. Yamamoto is almost a run difference, 249 from 197. Sanchez is 255. Peralta is 270, and then Abbott and Pivetta had 287. And the strikeouts, Webb led the National League, and Luzardo and Skeens were tied for second. Cease was top 5, so was Christopher Sanchez. And then rookie-wise, Kurtz had a 36-86 season, home runs and RBIs. Close Montgomery had a 21-55, and he didn't even play the whole season. Imagine if he played the whole season, he might have had more. Wilson, 63 RBIs and 311 batting average. Cortez, 309. Crenshaw, 302. The Royals, Jansen, 300. Stolen bases, Simpson, clearly that's his job to get on base steal base, but he had 44. Jake Magnum, 27. So 2 guys on the same team at 20, almost 30-plus stolen bases. Chase Dominguez at 23. Pitching-wise, Cade Horton was 11-4 with a 2.67 ERA, while the Miz was 5-4 with a 4.6, so he kind of fizzled out. So Cade Horton had the better rookie season than the pitcher. But Chad Patrick and Brad Lord each had 100. Lord had 108, and Patrick had 127. So I'm thinking that the best rookies were in the American League. So by default, it's going to probably be Cade Horton in the National League. There's going to be a close race between Wilson and Kurtz of the American League. So thanks again for listening to another edition of MLB Observations of the 2025 season, the second half. On the Radar Table Blog, I'm Radar. See you guys next time.